With COVID-19 cases worldwide rising at such an unprecedented rate, and healthcare systems all across the globe being inundated by it. In England we have stories every day that each ward that used to be for this kind of patient, now for COVID patients. The fact that we have a COVID-19 vaccine, and many of them, is a game changer. And as of January 2021, there have been 2 vaccines that are now rolled out within the UK and being given to patients, namely the Pfizer Vaccine and the Oxy Vaccine. But in the news, they never really tell us how they work. We get told that, for example, it has X or Y effectiveness, or it's been given to this kind of patient, or this is the first ever patient. But we never really get told how they affect our bodies. So this is what I hope to show you today. And so hello and welcome to Medicinals. My name is Abdullah Dawood, your host. And I hope you enjoy today's episode of how the COVID-19 vaccines work. So I think it's best to start off with the Pfizer vaccine. Now what it is an RNA vaccine. Now what that means also is that this is a short bit of the viral genome. They make this in the lab, and then they store it and transport it in lipid vehicles. You may be wondering what are lipid vehicles? So what they are is basically a type of nanoparticle where the genome has been inserted inside of them. Little tiny pieces of fat, and now they're going to go inside your body. But how do they go inside our body? Well, just like the flu vaccine, insert them into your shoulder muscle. With a needle, you inject it inside of it. So exactly like the flu vaccine, if you ever had one. Now the RNA goes inside our cells when it gets transported with the lipid vehicles, and then once inside our cells, it uses the machinery, just like a normal virus would do, to make the proteins that it codes for. And then it's going to release them into the blood. When they're outside of the blood, the body's going to recognize that these aren't your body's proteins. It's going to look at them and it's going to go, this isn't a part of me. Now a specific cell that does this is called antigen presenting cells. So they look at all these proteins which are called antigens, and they recognize which ones are made by you or not by you. Now after they recognize this is not made by your own body's DNA, they're going to recruit something called T helper cells. Now what they are is another set of cells that recognize this isn't part of your body, and they're going to recruit their friends called B cells to fight off the proteins. B cells are important because if they are what they make the antibodies, and if you've ever heard of antibodies before, they are what give you immunity. But if you don't know what they are small proteins, just like the viral proteins as well. They're all proteins. Everything is made of proteins in this universe, I swear. But anyway, small proteins with 2 little arms. Now these arms are specifically made to bind to the viral proteins, the ones that the RNA made. So then when you get infected with COVID-19 and it makes this viral protein, just like the vaccine made as well, these antibodies are going to bind to these proteins, and they're going to clump them together into one massive clot. Literally a massive clot called agglutination. And when they're all clumped together, the COVID-19, when it does enter your body, it can't enter your cells if it's just clumped together. Now this is important because with the vaccine, when it enters and the B cells recognize that they should be making these kind of antibodies, they're also going to make something called memory cells. They are what give you the long-term immunity. They swim in your blood dormant, and then when your body recognizes a COVID-19 infection, your T cells activated and then your B cells are activated, they turn into something called plasma cells. Plasma cells are very important because they are what release lots and lots of antibodies quite quickly to, again, like I said, clump up, agglutinate all the COVID-19 viruses before they can enter your cells and cause a massive problem. Now the Pfizer vaccine is an RNA vaccine. You may be wondering what this means. What it means is that they just made a short bit of the viral genome, COVID-19 genome, in a lab. They recognize that, we can use this part of the genome to help us make a vaccine. This is very important because what it means is that we can accurately control which genes enter your body because we have specifically manufactured the ones we want. And because we only manufacture the ones that won't infect you but will give you immunity, this is a very safe kind of vaccine. And it is 95% effective. But just like, the flu vaccine that you get annually, you may feel a bit tired and a bit lethargic for a few days after the infection, which is normal. It's your body working without you seeing it. It's not you having a COVID-19 infection. No, not at all. There isn't even a COVID-19 virus inside the vaccine. It's just your body working inside. You're doing cardio inside your blood, but you're not even seeing it. So if you're enjoying the video so far, please leave a like and a subscribe and a comment. And with that, let's roll on to the Oxy Vaccine. Now the Oxy Vaccine uses a harmless chimp virus. It cannot replicate inside your cells because A, it's made for chimpanzees, and B, all the genomes and all the machinery that helps replicate have been taken away. It's literally just a vessel for the COVID-19 genome that has been inserted inside of it. So the chimpanzee adenovirus with a bit of COVID-19 genome, specifically for the receptors of COVID-19 called the crowns, the coronas. It's injected in a similar way to the Pfizer vaccine and the flu vaccine, side or dealt, and then the same thing happened. The genome enters your cells. Your body cells make the crown proteins. Your antigen presenting cells recognize this is not from you, and so they recruit the T helper cells, which then recruit the B cells. And the B cells make memory cells, which then turn into plasma cells and make antibodies to help you with long-term immunity. Now you may be scared, this vaccine contains a virus, but like I just said, it's a chimpanzee virus, not for humans, and B, its machinery has been removed so it cannot replicate, and so really it cannot cause a massive infection inside your body. And the only genome for it that has coronavirus stuff is a bit for the receptors, nothing else. We don't have the DNA for the full-on coronavirus. We don't have the one for the massive shell and for the massive other stuff inside of it. It's just the receptors, the things on the outside that the antibodies recognize. So this is important. The antibodies will recognize the proteins that the inserted genomes will code for when you get the COVID-19 infection. So then they're outside, so the antibodies combine to them and they clump up all the viruses together into one massive clot. No, not a blood clot, but just like a weird string or something of COVID-19 viruses that won't really harm you. Because when they're all together, they can't enter your cells. They have to be smaller, they have to be by themselves to enter your cells. If they're just together, they're just going to be flowing in the blood, not able to do anything to you. They're just going to break down. Now, you may be wondering, what's the effectiveness of this vaccine? Well, it's a bit lower than the Pfizer one, 90% compared to 95%. But it is easier to store. So the problem with the Pfizer one is it needs specific finicky conditions to be used and stored. This one is quite easy. It's quite a rugged vaccine, So it's much easier for the NHS and for the other healthcare systems around the globe to use and transport and so on and so on. But then you also may be wondering, why do we have so many different kinds of vaccines? Well, there's many reasons to that. First, you've got competition, you've got money, but you've also got a massive supply chain that we can utilize. One factory can't make so many vaccines for the whole world, but if you have many, many companies with many, many factories working although they're making their own vaccines, but they're making COVID-19 vaccines, we can immunize people more and more quite quickly. And what that means is that we're able to tackle this terrible moment in our history faster than we could if we just work on our own. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Medicinals. If you did, leave a like and a subscribe and a comment.